In a small, quiet village surrounded by golden fields and dusty roads, lived a young widow named Sarah. Life had never been kind to her, but the day her husband passed away in a tragic accident, her world completely shattered. She was only 20 and pregnant. The villagers whispered, "How will she survive alone? How will she raise a child without a father?" But Sarah never answered them. She would gently place her hand over her stomach and whisper, "I am not alone. My child is with me." Months later, on a rainy night filled with thunder, a baby boy was born. She named him Daniel. The moment she held him in her arms, something inside her healed. The pain of losing a husband didn't disappear, but it softened, because now she had a reason to live. But from that day, her life had only one purpose: Daniel. A mother's silent struggle. Sarah worked in the fields during the day and stitched clothes at night. Her hands were always tired, her eyes often red from sleepless nights. But whenever Daniel cried, she would smile instantly. She never let him feel the emptiness of not having a father when he took his first steps. She clapped like he had conquered the world. When he said "Mama" for the first time, tears rolled down her cheeks. To Daniel, she was just his mother. But in reality, she was his entire universe. The first sacrifice one winter, Daniel fell seriously ill. His fever wouldn't go down. The small village clinic had limited medicines. The doctor said softly, "He needs treatment in the city. It would cost a lot." Sarah had nothing left to sell. No jewelry, no savings. Except one thing. The small piece of land her husband had left behind. It was the only memory she had of him that night. She sat alone, staring at the land under the moonlight. Tears silently fell on the soil. The next morning she sold it without hesitation because, for a mother, memories can wait, but her child's life cannot. Daniel survived. He never knew what his mother gave up for him. Growing apart, years passed. Daniel grew into a bright and intelligent young man. Sarah worked harder so he could attend the best school in the nearby town. One day Daniel came home with exciting news. "Mom, I got a scholarship to study in the city." Sarah's heart was filled with pride and fear. The city was far, very far, but she smiled and said, "My son deserves the world." The day he left, she packed his favorite food and slipped a small, handwritten note into his bag. "No matter how far you go, my prayers will always walk beside you." Daniel hugged her quickly. He was excited in a hurry, full of dreams. He didn't notice her hands shaking as she waved goodbye. The distant city. Life changed Daniel. New friends, new lifestyle, new ambitions. Bog calls became shorter, then fewer. Then rare. Whenever Sarah called, he would say, "Mom, I'm busy, I'll call you later." Later never came. She would sit near the small window every evening, holding her old phone, waiting some. She cooked his favorite meal, imagining he might suddenly walk through the door, but the door stayed closed. Years passed. Again Daniel graduated and got a high-paying job. He moved into a modern apartment, he bought expensive clothes, he attended parties, but he never visited the village. Not once. Sarah's hair turned white, her hands became weaker, but her heart, it still beat only for her son. One winter night, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. The neighbor rushed her to the clinic. The doctor said she needed proper treatment in the city. The neighbor called Daniel. He didn't answer. They tried again. Finally he picked up. "Hello, Daniel Beta. Your mother is very sick." There was silence. Then he said, "I have an important meeting tomorrow. I'll try to come next week." Next week was too late. The last letter, knowing her time was short. Sarah asked for paper and pen. With trembling hands, she wrote, "My dear son Daniel, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer beside you. But remember, I was never far. From the day you were born, my life belonged to you. Every hunger I ignored, every tear I hid, every dream I sacrificed, it was all for you. I never wanted anything in return. Not money, not gifts, only your time. But even when you forgot me, I never forgot you. A mother's love never fades, my son. Not in distance, not in silence, not even in death. Be kind, be humble, and whenever you feel alone, look at the sky. I will be there praying for you. Forever yours, Mom." She folded the letter and smiled softly in it. She closed her eyes. When Daniel finally arrived in the village days later, the house felt smaller, quieter, emptier. The neighbor handed him the letter. As he read each word, his hands began to shake. Memories flooded back, her tired hands, her warm hugs, her proud smile. He fell to his knees and cried like a child. For the first time in years, he whispered "Mom," but this time she wasn't there to answer. Daniel never sold the old house. Instead, he turned it into a small school for poor children in his mother's name. Every year on her death anniversary, he visits the village and sits by her grave. He talks to her, he apologizes, he thanks her because he finally understood the truth. Success means nothing without the hands that lifted you, and a mother's love never fades. The house felt different now. Not broken, not destroyed, just empty. Daniel walked slowly through the small rooms where his childhood once lived. The walls were cracked, the paint faded, but memories still breathed inside them. In the corner of the living room stood the old wooden chair, her chair. He gently touched it for a moment. He could almost see her sitting there waiting for him, holding the phone, hoping it would ring. His chest tightened. "Why didn't I come sooner?" he whispered, but silence was the only answer. The box under the bed that night, Daniel couldn't sleep. The village was quiet. No city noise, no phone notifications, no meetings, only his thoughts. While cleaning the room, he noticed a small wooden box under his mother's bed. It was dusty. Opened carefully. Locked. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were dozens of small things. His first baby's shoes, his broken toy car, his school drawings, a medal from his first competition, and hundreds of photographs of him, every single one carefully saved. At the bottom of the box was a small notebook. He opened it. It was her diary, her silent prayers. The first page read, "Today Daniel smiled in his sleep. I think he saw angels." Another page, "Daniel has a fever. I prayed all night. Dear God, take my health but protect my son." Another page, "Daniel is going to the city tomorrow. I am scared, but I will not cry in front of him. He must fly high." Tears fell onto the pages as he turned them. On the last page, written in weak handwriting, "My son sounds busy these days. Maybe that means he is happy. That is enough for me." Daniel closed the diary and cried like he had never cried before. All those years. She never complained. She never blamed him. She only prayed for him. The dream that night. Exhausted from tears, Daniel fell asleep on the floor and he saw her. She was standing in the golden field, just like years ago. The wind gently moved her white scarf. Shiv smiled. Not sad, not hurt, just peaceful. "Daniel," Shiv said softly. He ran toward her. "I'm sorry, Mom, I'm so sorry." She placed her hand on his head. "My son, I was never angry. Mother's love doesn't keep a countess." He tried to hold her hand, but slowly. She faded into light. He woke up crying. For the first time since her death, his heart felt slightly lighter, because he understood something important. She had already forgiven him, promised. The next morning, Daniel stood outside the house as the sun rose. He looked at the village children walking barefoot to school. Suddenly, he remembered how hard his mother worked just to educate him. He made a decision. He would not let her sacrifices fade into dust. He would build something in her name, not to remove his guilt, but to continue her love, the beginning of changements. Later, construction began in the village. People were surprised. A new building, a school, with a name written proudly at the entrance. Sarah Memorial School. A mother's love never fades. Daniel didn't just send money. He stayed. He worked. Personally met the children. He listened to their dreams. Every time he saw a child smile, he felt like his mother was smiling too. The visit to her grave on the school's opening day. Daniel walked to the small graveyard. He carried fresh white flowers. He knelt beside her grave. "Mom, I can't bring back time, but I can honor your love." The wind gently blew across the fields for a second. He felt something warm around him, like a hug. Not from the world, from her. He smiled through tears because he finally understood. Love does not disappear with death. It changes form. It becomes guidance. It becomes strength. It becomes a voice inside your heart. And a mother's love never fades. Years passed. The small village that once felt silent and forgotten was now filled with laughter. Children ran through the courtyard of Sarah Memorial School, their voices echoing in the air. Daniel stood at the entrance watching them. Sometimes he smiled. Sometimes his eyes quietly filled with tears because every child reminded him of himself, and every smile reminded him of her. The speech on the school's 5th anniversary. The entire village gathered for a small celebration. Daniel was invited to speak. He walked slowly to the stage, holding the same old diary his mother had written in. For a moment, he couldn't speak. His voice trembled. "I built this school in memory of my mother," he began softly. "But the truth is, she built me." The crowd was silent. "She gave up her land to save my life. She worked day and night so I could study. And when I became successful, I forgot the hands that lifted me." Tears filled his eyes. "Too busy building my future. And I ignored the person who gave me one." Some people in the crowd began wiping their tears. Daniel continued. "If your mother is still alive, please go home and hug her. Sit with her, listen to her stories. Because one day, the phone will stop ringing." His voice broke completely, and no success in the world can bring her back. A small boy after the event ended. A small boy from the school came running toward Daniel. "Is it true your mother is in heaven?" Daniel smiled gently. "Yes." The boy looked up at the sky. "Then she must be very proud." Those simple words pierced his heart. Daniel looked at the sky too. The evening sun painted everything in golden light. For a second, he remembered her voice. Again, soft, loving, warm. The final realization that night. Daniel sat alone in his old house, but this time, the house didn't feel empty. Her chair was still there, her memories were still there. But now, instead of pain, there was gratitude. He opened her diary one last time and whispered, "Mom, I finally understand. Love is not about how long someone stays. It's about how deeply they shape your soul." Her sacrifices were not chains of guilt, they were seeds, and now those seeds had grown into kindness, compassion, and purpose. The last scene years later, Daniel himself grew older. His hair slowly turned gray. One evening, he walked through the school corridor while children were studying. On the wall hung a large portrait of Sarah. Under it were written the words, "A mother's love never fades." Daniel stopped and looked at her picture. He placed his hand gently on the frame. "Thank you for never giving up on me." A soft breeze moved through the hallway, and for a brief moment, he felt that same warmth again, the warmth of her embrace, not seen, not heard, but deeply felt. Because even when a mother leaves this world, her love stays behind, in her child's heart forever. Asterisk.